Your pedalboard can either enhance your sound or completely derail it. And nothing is worse than putting in hours of practice only to step on stage and have your tone sucked away from you by your equipment. Isn't that the truth? Today, we'll explore the most common pedalboard pitfalls that can sabotage your tone, gain, pedal chain order, power supplies, and preamps. Sound good? Let's get nerdy. I'm Andy Schneider, career musician turned guitar coach, producer, and author of over 100 books from my publishing company, Sing Music Books. I was a high school band nerd, then a devoted jazz guy, then a backing musician for great artists in every type of music. From Austin to Nashville to New York City, I've learned from my musical experiences and the great musicians that were there with me. I'm a self-taught guitarist, but I was lucky enough to get the right bits of education early on in my career. Pairing that with the many conversations I've shared with more experienced musicians put me on the path to success, a path that built my skills to become the experienced, confident musician audiences enjoy today. I created the Guitar Nerd podcast to give you simple steps to building and growing your musical knowledge, having greater abilities, and getting that amazing music that's inside of you out and into the world where we can all enjoy it. Whether you're a beginner or experienced guitar or bass player, if you want to make fantastic music, you're in the right place, my friend. Now let's get nerdy. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to Guitar Nerd. My name is Andy Schneider. It's great seeing you here again this week. It must be Tuesday. It's my favorite time of the week, getting to hang out with y'all and talk nerdy stuff about guitars and basses and how to make the music that we love to make, that we need to make, and the music that America and the world need to hear. I've got to include the world. You know what? Shout outs. I was checking my metrics this week. Shout outs to Sao Paulo, Brazil, to Johannesburg. Hello down there, you folks. Great seeing you. I believe there are some folks that have found some of my new books. I've got some new books out in lots and lots of languages. One is on playing the blues on a banjo. One's on playing the blues on a guitar. One's for bassists, walking better bass lines for the blues. And I love knowing that there are people all over the world tuning into this, hopefully making a little bit better music as we get together to do what we do, which is share information. That's how music is always passed down. Even in the most academic circles, when you get right down to it, it takes one individual to pass it on to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. So thanks for letting me pass on the stuff that I know. And I have a feeling you may be passing on this information to somebody else someday. And isn't that kind of cool? I think that's extremely cool. Well, whether you're starting out, you're a newbie, or you're a long in the tooth, experienced old hound pro, you're going to find something here. I sure hope you do, to energize your music this week. Something to breathe new life and put new fuel in your gas tank. Last week, we talked walking bass lines, because bass lines are fundamental to so many kinds of music. I mean, you think about blues, jazz. That's the first one that comes to mind for most folks. It gets used in rock. It gets used in country. It gets used in so many genres. It's worth knowing how to walk a good line, whether you're a bass player or whether you're a guitar player, because sometimes the guitar player will double or even just take over walking that bass line. Booba-dooba-dooba-dooba-dooba-dooba-dooba-dooba. Something like that. We talked about the part one of walking your first bass lines. Part one. It's going to be a three-part series, and I'm really looking forward to it. Great bass lines are a killer way to propel a song without going to full chords. So they're great for bass players. They're great for guitar players. We all need them. And that's what we talked about last week. This week, we're going to talk gear. We're going to talk gear and something that's really near and dear to me, which is getting better at gear, either getting better gear or just simply getting better hooking it up. And a more deep understanding of what that gear is and what its needs are and how to hook it up is really fundamental to making better music. You don't want weird hums and soft, muddy sounds. You want nice, clean projection, just you sounding like you through all of your equipment. 99% of playing music is not doing the wrong thing, isn't it? 99% of music isn't about using this scale or using that amp. It's about just don't do the wrong things. Well, that's what we're going to talk about. And bass players, this episode about pedal boards may apply to you as much or even more than guitar players. And I'll tell you why. Bass requires a lot of strong, clean power to get that sound kind of through your gear, through the cables, all the way to the amplifier. So we've got to pay some kind of special attention to that low end. Additionally, bass frequencies, like the actual fundamental frequency of your low strings, is right down near the 60 hertz mark. What's 60 hertz? Same hum that's coming through all electric equipment. Or if you do get a hum from your pedal board, for example, it's going to be right near the fundamental, and ooh, that's a drag. That's an extra big drag that we just can't get over. So we got to make sure that we hook everything up right, pay that special attention, and get a great bass tone as well. Pedal boards are a fantastic way to shape your sound and add personality to your playing. But if not set up correctly, they can lead to inconsistent tone and a lot of frustration. Well, today we're going to explore some common pitfalls and how to avoid them. Now, perhaps the first mistake that every guitarist or bassist makes when setting up a pedal board is inconsistent gain. Gain is essentially the amount of amplification applied to your signal. So from the input to the output of the pedal, does the volume go up when it's turned on, or does it go down, or does it stay kind of the same? Maybe the tone changes when you turn on the pedal. But if the volume doesn't change, we say it had a gain of 0 dB. It's not positive and it's not negative. That's kind of ideal. For almost any pedal, that is the goal. Now, there are exceptions to that, such as a boost pedal, something that's used for solo sort of spotlight minutes, where you need to step out, to get louder intentionally. But unless the intention of the pedal is to specifically make you louder, it's best to aim for a 0 dB gain through all your pedals. So that just means, if you want to test that, you'll notice that the last knob on almost any pedal is labeled master, or it's labeled volume, and it's for fixing this specific problem. Turn your pedal on, get the tone happening that you want, then adjust the master or the volume output so that when you turn it back off, things don't get really quieter, they don't really get louder. It's kind of about the same. It's an important step to make because often you just want to change your tone, but you don't really want to get louder. In a band context, the rest of your band will get pretty angry with you if all of a sudden you're at an uneven level. All of a sudden you're louder. You're louder than they are, or you're too quiet to appreciate. We don't want that. 0 dB gain, very important. The next most common mistake that everyone makes when setting up their first pedal boards is a poor choice of order. In the signal chain, putting the pedals in sort of the wrong place in the chain. It sure makes a difference. The more you play with this, the more you'll see what I'm talking about. But generally, the first things to have in the chain are, if you've got an electronic tuner, that's a great thing to start with. Then perhaps a preamp. Preamps are wonderful things to begin your chain, and I'll get to those in just 1 second and what a preamp does for you. Then we go to overdrives and distortions, And generally that's followed by modulation effects like chorus, flanger, phaser, and finally after that, time-based effects like delay and like reverb. Now, there are no hard and fast rules. Feel free to break that general recommendation and try something different. But I think you'll find that the sounds that you want go very well in that order. Tuner, preamp, then overdrive, then modulation like chorus or flange if you have it, and then delay or reverb. The hidden game killer on your pedal board may not be so easy to spot, at least not until you go looking for it after listening to this next little bit. An inadequate power supply is more responsible for bad guitar and bass tone than probably any other single cause. All pedals have an amount of power that they require to do their job, and each pedal is a little bit different. When you start totaling it all up, you've got to make sure that your power supply can handle the job, that it exceeds the amount of power that's required by all of your pedals. A reliable power supply is crucial for maintaining consistent performance and tone from your pedals. Invest in a high-quality power supply to avoid noise and ensure that each pedal receives the correct voltage and amperage. And a good thing to be watching, while many pedals take a 9-volt DC supply, there are lots of 9-volt DC supplies out there, right? Well, they're not all equal. Some have more architecture to kind of keep supply noise down. Those are your better buffered power supplies. The less expensive stuff just kind of looks like a transformer that you know, that wall wart thing, that big nub that you just plug in. Those are generally a little bit lower in quality and a little bit more noisy. The thing that you would do to assess and take inventory of your situation, do you have the right power supply? Take a look on the back of your pedals and take a scratch pad and write down what current they require. So let's say you've got all 9-volt supply pedals. Great. That's a pretty common situation. Not all pedals are 9 volts, but most are. So take a look on the back and see how many milliamps are required. It will say something like 900 MA for power supply. It will say something like 9-volt DC, 900 MA. If you're supplying just to that one pedal, you've got to have a power supply that exceeds 900 milliamps. 1,000 would be great. Any number larger than 900 would be great. If you had two of those pedals, well, 900 plus 900, together they need 1,800 milliamps. Can your power supply deliver that? Does it have a rating of being able to supply more than 1,800 milliamps? That's the question that you need to ask yourself. And boy, it makes such a difference. Pedals just sort of sound choked and puny and lo-fi when they're not getting the proper current. The voltage may sort of be there. You know, you've got a 9-volt supply and it's a 9-volt pedal. And even the light sometimes comes on and you think, well, everything seems pretty A-okay. But when you get that power supply that has the rated amount of juice, the pedals come back to life. And I think you'll hear a much more high-fidelity sound at the output. Another game killer that you may not recognize by looking at your pedal board is actually what's not there. Do you use preamps? Do you have preamps? Do you have anything? Sometimes they're called buffers or a line buffer. Preamps are now being used by professional guitarists often in two positions on professional pedal boards. One is at the entrance to the pedal board. It's the very first thing that the sound hits. Maybe it hits the preamp and then sends some out to the tuner. Then it goes through all of the pedals And then there's another preamp or line buffer or line driver. They're all kind of words for the same thing. But it is at the end of the chain. So the first preamp is kind of a tone preserver. It helps you sort of recover what tone might have been lost in a long guitar cable. Remember, it's just little pickups that are sending the juice. They're trying to get it all the way to your pedal board. Well, they succeeded, and the preamp picks up that sound and says, I'm coming in right behind you. I'm going to reinforce you and make sure that your tone gets through now all of the pedals on your pedal board. Okay, successful tone is achieved at the output of the pedal board, but you still have to get that sound back to the amplifier all the way behind you, and that means another long chord and more signal degradation. So there's often a preamp at the end of the pedal board as well. One at the beginning helps recover your guitar tone and send it through the pedals. One at the end picks up that sound and makes certain that it gets to your amplifier without any tone loss. Pretty cool. I'll tell you my setup right now. I'm using both. I'm using both of those situations. And this is on my bass rig. I actually have a preamp that my guitar enters the pedal board to the preamp. And then my preamp has 3 outputs. And they're all pretty much identical. 3 identical outputs. Well, I'll tell you what, it has 4. Because the 4th one is my tuner. But 3 of them are to different lines around my pedal board. And then the tone gets shaped by each of those a different way. One is just a dry, standard bass sound. The other 2 are for more lead playing. And then everything comes back together into a switching pedal, all 3 of those lines. And then it goes out of the board through another line buffer or line driver to make sure that it gets to the amp behind me. Now, remember I said bass players? This talk applies at least as much to you as it does to anybody else. Well, bass gets lost, especially over long transmissions, and we need to bolster it up. So a preamp sort of supplies that extra, it's current. It provides a signal boost is what it does, and make sure that it gets to the end of the chain and the end of the guitar cable without degrading. It should be noted, a good preamp really doesn't change your tone. It just preserves it. It isn't the aim of the preamp usually to add more sparkle, more pizzazz, or more low end. It's just to move the sound from A to B to C successfully. And that's what a good preamp does, in my opinion. Other people might argue, and they like a little bit of color, and all preamps are a little bit different. No 2 are exactly the same, so it's worth trying a few out. I think once you hear the effect of a preamp on your board and how much of your tone has been lost without it, you'll probably never want to make music without a preamp or 2 on your board ever again. Calling my bass players. If you enjoyed last week's episode about bass lines, you probably recognized how much scale knowledge applies to them, right? It's hard to play a great bass line unless you know something about scales and how to use them. Well, it's must-have information. And I have a new book. It's set to drop in just a week or 2 here. I have a new book. It's called Beginning Bass Scale Exercises, packed with scales and exercises to get you started developing real fluency with your scales and your fretboard. It's a super way to begin learning major and minor scales. It's got lots of rhythm patterns and even pentatonic scales. Spends quite a bit of time going over major and minor pents. That's the stuff of not just great bass lines, but solos. It's a great entry point to thinking about soloing as well. It's a fun way to begin getting deep scale knowledge by only committing 10 minutes a day. And who can't find 10 minutes to level up their game? Beginning bass scale exercises. Look for it later this month on seeingmusicbooks.com and everywhere books are sold. Today we tackled some of the most common pedalboard mistakes: inconsistent gain, poor pedal chain order, inadequate power supplies, and the absence of preamps. Remember, a well-organized pedalboard can transform your sound and make it something really enjoyable and memorable. Thanks to everybody who's been subscribing. Thank you, Sao Paulo. Thank you, Johannesburg. Thank you, all the points in Europe that say hi to me all the time. Hello to my friends in Germany. It's an amazing feeling to know that y'all are out there all over this beautiful planet. And I love hearing from you on social media. So keep those cards and letters coming. Momo the studio kitty is hanging out on my desk and demanding pets. That's right. I can do two things, can't I, kitty? You've got great music inside of you, my musicians. Let's get it out. Let's get it into the world for everyone to hear. This is the week to look at your pedal board, experiment with your order, experiment with different and better upgraded power supplies. See how these changes affect your sound. If you haven't tried a preamp before, see if you can get your hands on one. Either check them out at the store or see if you can borrow one from a friend and just listen to the improvement it makes in your sound. I think you will be amazed. It's a big change for not a lot of money out of pocket. Until next time, have a great nerdy week. I'm Andy Schneider, and you've been listening to Guitar Nerd. Momo, don't stand in front of the computer.